Thanks, Jacob, Yehuda, Charles, and David, for the colorful discussion and healthy debate. Moving on to our third panel, we get into another very interesting multidimensional topic, this time around MPC roadblocks and what's happening to achieve broad institutional adoption of MPC. This panel is moderated by Keith Baer, a fellow at Cambridge University's Center for Alternative Finance, which is part of the Judge Business School. He's also a fintech advisor and mentor. Keith, thanks again for moderating today. Please further introduce your panel's topic and panelists.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this panel on the institutional adoption of multi-party computing approaches to crypto custody. So we have a fantastic panel here represented by Clarice, Marcos, Ankur, Aman, and Gwilym. I'd like to have them introduce themselves. If you could briefly do this, starting maybe with Clarice.
Thank you, Keith. Hi, everyone. I'm Clarice, CEO of Defense. Prior to Defense, I actually spent 10 years in investment banking. Defense is a digital asset security provider based on MPC, and we provide our solution to financial institutions, crypto startups, crypto scale-ups.
Marcos?
Hi, I'm Marcos Viriato, CEO of Parfin. I also have been in the financial markets for more than 20 years. I was a partner of an investment bank called BTG Pactual, running operations technology. I jumped into crypto back in 15, but we founded Parfin in 19, primarily to solve, infrastructure problems, and we partnered with sector to use their MPC technology and build a more institutional class custody solution for clients, targeting again neobanks, normal banks, fintechs, and so on. It's much broader now with this advent of NTFs and so on. So it's broader than the use case for financial institutions only. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you very much. Ankur?
Thanks, Keith. Hello, everyone. My name is Ankur Kakkar. I am part of Marsh. I'm the head of digital assets for Marsh in UK and Ireland. I've been with Marsh for 14 years, and I've been working in the digital asset space for about 5 of them, working with various clients across the spectrum, developing insurance solutions for them, and helping them transfer their risk to the insurance market. Nice to meet you.
Thank you very much for joining. Gwilym?
Hello, and thanks for having me. Nice to meet you, everyone. So I'm Guillaume. I'm the founder of Atato. We're a Singapore-based company that helps newbies get onto blockchain and get a wallet and custody up and running. So they could be GameFi users, DeFi users, or NFT collectors. And we also work with some small businesses using our platforms to secure their crypto. So nice to meet you, and thanks for having me.
And last but not least, Aman?
Hi guys, I'm Aman Fend. I'm the Chief Technology Officer for State Street Digital Assets. So that's a brand new arm that was created in State Street mid last year in order to help our institutional clients really thrive within the new digital ecosystem and help everyone find their new place in this brand new value chain that the crypto ecosystem has created for all of us.
Great, thanks very much. And as you'll see, we have a wonderful cross-section of both roles, geographies, and experiences as far as the panel is concerned. So I'd like to kick things off just in terms of a general question. How well perceived do you think and understood is MPC by institutions today? Clarice, do you want to kick off this conversation?
Of course. Well, I think there's still a lot of education to be made about MPC. So a few years ago, I would say mostly since 2019, MPC has raised interest of institutions, and institutions have been interested in solutions that MPC were bringing compared to, for instance, cold storage solutions. But we still have a lot of education to be made, mostly around the implementation of MPC, the usage of MPC, the security around MPC. They are all talking about MPC. Not all of them have purchased MPC solution yet.
Great. And Aman, anything to add to that from a State Street perspective in terms of how well you think MPC is understood by institutions?
Absolutely. So I think there is certainly a great interest in MPC now more than ever. And I think the proof is in the pudding. So for example, if we look at the that MPC custody providers like Fireblocks, Copper, they're raising money at multi-billion-dollar valuation. If we look at independent MPC providers like Curve, it was acquired by PayPal. Shardex was acquired by Gemini. Unbound was acquired by Coinbase. So there is so much activity that is happening in the MPC market at the moment and over the last 2 years that it is completely unprecedented, because MPC by itself as a technology has been there for a very long time. But it's, I think, larger institutions have now suddenly started accepting its value in the crypto space, and that is clearly being reflected as to what's happening in the market.
Great, thank you. So obviously there's a lot of activity and excitement around MPC at the moment. That kind of raises the question, what are the biggest barriers to institutional adoption of MPC? Guillaume, any comments you would make on that?
Sure, and from our perspective, I think the biggest barrier is the lack of standardization of the MPC technology. Clarisse was mentioning education and the need for it. Our view is that this is made difficult by the fragmented ecosystem and the very subtle nuances that exist between the different MPC solution providers, which in our view makes it a little bit difficult to build trust in the technology communities. And from our perspective, working with institutions in Southeast Asia, most of the questions we receive are around the differences between one protocol versus another. So we think that this is the main factor limiting adoption, although it's still pretty strong in Southeast Asia, and most banks and exchanges in the region use EC-based custody solutions today.
Okay. And any additional comments, Marcos, from your point of view? Any barriers that you see?
Yeah, I think again, despite of the, as Eman said, despite of being for 10 years or so the MPC technology, I think their lack of knowledge or specifics in cryptography, especially professionals that understand the mathematics of the algorithms. This brings a complexity. So if you go to a big bank and they don't have resources to really understand, analyze, integrate to the different blockchain protocols, despite of the more commonality around the signatures, ECDSA or EDSA. So you have to understand clearly, how the protocol works, how that will interact with the MPC technology. That's bring a huge barrier, in my view, to find professionals with such experience to deploy within the bank. And again, which could be an opportunity for us,
So anyone else have any comments on this question?
Yeah, I would just add over there, and to the previous question as well. I think technology always moves a lot faster than people's understanding. And therefore, and there have been too many changes in the crypto industry from a technology standpoint over the last 3-4 years. And there are a lot of people who are still grappling with what is a blockchain. I'm sure everybody on this panel and people who are listening in understand what a blockchain is. But we started off from sharding to multi-signature, and now we're to MPC. Whereas a lot of people still are unable to understand what blockchain or multi-signature is. For us, it might seem to be very easy, but not for everybody else. And I think that's the biggest issue, that there is not a lot more education happening in this space by everybody involved. And thanks to MPC Alliance for putting this together to educate the general public about what MPC is and how it's all mathematics at the end of the day. And this is something which will help in future adoption of MPC.
Right, thanks very much.
And maybe
Clarisse?
if I can have just one point to build on what was just said. Financial institutions are risk adverse. They will come to the crypto market when they have safe and sound infrastructure, when they understand the product and the solutions. Now, what is making this environment even more complex is also the lack of support from regulators or the lack of guidance from regulators. When you're told that being a custodian, you need to prove that you actually own a key, a private key, and when some solution, some company comes to you by saying, oh, we have a great solution that actually splits this private key, so you don't have this issue of managing that private key, this creates a big issue. And I'm going to talk from experience. We were in an RFP, large RFP, and we were asked to provide actually a legal opinion to confirm the fact that with our solutions, regulators would understand that our clients would still be in control of the private key. So all that to say that regulation is also still a barrier, and the lack of guidance around what solutions can a financial institution speak in order to become registered as a custodian is also a barrier. Now, in most of main markets, in France, in the UK, in the US, there has been some registered custodian being registered with MPC solutions. So it's slowly moving, but we're still lacking that guidance that brings discomfort to financial institutions.
Do you have any view on how that issue could be helped by greater? How can regulators gain access to better education about MPC, or are there other initiatives that would really help regulators understand the nature of the technology and the nature of the risks?
I think Guillaume talked about standardization. That's definitely one part of the solution. Of course, education, and that's the mission of MPC Alliance, but also proof of time. And I think it's the beginning of this technology, and time will also make its work.
Okay, thank you. Okay, one important factor around the usage of MPC is around insurance coverage. So Anke, maybe if I could turn to you, and what is required to get good insurance coverage for MPC-based crypto custody, in your view?
Sure. So just, before diving into the fact of MPC insurance and all of that, I think you need to understand as to what insurance is available for crypto companies or digital asset companies as a whole, and how this evolved. There was very limited insurance available maybe 6-7 years ago, but at this point of time, the insurance market has evolved. And unfortunately for the insurance market, technology moves much quicker than insurance also. And the insurers are at this point of time trying to understand what the technology is, and therefore they need third parties to understand what the technology is, to make them understand the mathematics behind it. There are various kinds of products which are available currently. We work with a number of digital asset companies to provide all of those products, but the capacity is limited at this point of time as compared to what clients are expecting or are looking for, or as compared to the assets under custody which they have. Going back to Claris's point of regulations, and if the regulations come into the space, that's when more insurance solutions and capacities will come into the space as well. MPC is a new and innovative solution from an insurance standpoint. What companies in this space need to do right now is be patient with the insurance market, try and educate them on their journey of MPC, present to them and make them understand what they're doing, why they're doing it, use third-party validations like pen testing and audit reports from the Big Four, SOC 1, SOC 2 reports, which really validate the technology in itself, which helps insurers understand all of this and makes them go to their management and say, look guys, we've done our work, we've done our underwriting in this space, and we think this is a very solid solution. These are the reasons behind it. And that's an evolving process, and it's a time-taking process. So I would just say have patience and provide as much information as possible.
Okay, thanks very much. Aman, anything you would add from a State Street perspective in terms of the importance of insurance and the maturity of the offerings?
So insurance quite often does become a factor which would be a make or break with different technologies. So for example, if a different technology comes along and says that they have better insurance coverage than what MPC provides, then that becomes quite a key factor for us in order to choose our technologies. So this is certainly a gap that definitely needs to be addressed. And I think it just needs to be addressed via better education, via wider adoption, and via there being an industry voice that speaks on behalf of the MPC and MPC Alliance and about the gap that currently exists in the market. And I do think it needs to be addressed for MPC adoption to go more wider than what it is at the moment.
Any other comments from anybody on this question?
I would like to add one point that Ankur mentioned about because there's especially for insurance, and we've been through this. There are two elements. One is the technology itself, so you need to understand and to explain to the underwriters which technology you're using, how you control. And the other piece, which is quite important, is the governance around it. As Ankur mentioned, SOC 2, ISO 27001. So any process and internal controls that you can prove that you have the right security, the right control to privacy, and change management, and so on. That's a combination I see very important for getting an insurance policy that covers your risks and mitigate them for the clients.
Right. Any other comments from anybody? Okay. I mean, we've talked about the state of the adoption of MPCs within the institutional market. And we've talked about some of the factors that are holding it back. Any views on how it could be further accelerated besides the topics we've mentioned in terms of education and insurance offerings and regulatory support? Any views in terms of how further acceleration could happen? Clarice, do you want to have a view?
Sure. In my opinion, MPC is the future of digital asset security for one simple reason: it does eliminate the single point of failure. And this is a game changer in the industry. So maybe to take a step back, digital assets and private keys are today radioactive materials. So they are very dangerous to manage, they are very dangerous to operate. And MPC makes this radioactive material safer to manage. Why? Because it spreads the assets into key shares, and therefore it eliminates the single point of failure. Now, MPC is very complex, and panelists have just said that, around the way we actually need standardization. It's not all scientific papers offer the same features. And I will go back to the first point of education. We need to build standardization around MPC. We need to have code auditing firms that will develop actually expertise around MPC and auditing MPC stack. This way, we can actually guarantee that MPC become a label, a guarantee of fund recovery for our clients. And I think these are the steps that we need to take. And it comes from, once again, standardizing, working together as an industry towards this standardization, educating code auditors, people in the industry that can actually assess the stack that we're putting together and developing this label.
Great. Any other comments on how adoption could be accelerated?
I think a lot of the institutions who are getting into this space and are developing their MPC technology, they should probably try and educate the regulators as well about it, and that is extremely important. At the end of the day, why do we have regulations around this, and what are regulators concerned about? Their major concern is investor protection. And that's why we have regulators in our banking world, in the financial institution space, in the equity markets, everywhere. Their major concern is investor protection. And that's the same concern any regulator would have in the digital asset space as well. And therefore, anybody and everybody who's developing MPC tech or utilizing it should reach out to the regulators, try and educate them so that we can go back to the point of standardization, which Guam raised as well. The regulators can then decide depending on hearing everybody out as to what they think could be the best way forward. I'm not saying they are the best in the position to decide that, but at least they're making an informed decision at that point of time.
Great, thank you. So there's an awful lot of discussion and controversy around the metaverse and Web3 at the moment, obviously. And depending on your point of view, you might see it as a fantastic new opportunity or a hype bubble. Regardless of that, I just wonder what your view is on what effect Web3 may have on MPC adoption. Aman, any views from your perspective?
So, Web3. So the whole point of Web3 is empowerment of the masses. We can empower the masses if we can keep the masses safe. And MPC is the technology which can truly allow the masses to, for example, adopt a technology which will keep their assets safe. And that, I think, is the foundation for the sustenance of Web3.
Right.
So I see it playing a very important role.
Any other comments on that question from anybody?
Yeah, I'd like to add that I absolutely agree with Aman's comment that, and that's our angle at Datato. We're using MPC for mass custody and wallets, similar to the brilliant team at Zengo in some ways. And I think one of the benefits that we sometimes underestimate when it comes to individuals using Web3, I know it's a bit outside of the topic of institutions, but one of the things we sometimes forget is, they need to back up a seed phrase or a private key. We tend to forget this in the MPC world. And like Clarisse said, this eliminates a single point of failure. And I think that institution adoption will come when the masses demand and use it as well. And so it's very important to me that MPC can be deployed to the individual. And going back to standardization, I can only hope for the day where we have an open MPC. If some of you remember web browsing in the 90s before OpenSSL came up, there was very, very few usage of SSL. Some people were buying products from RSA and other companies, a bit similar to what we see today in the MPC space, in my opinion. So I'm hopeful that an open MPC type solution will, reach the market in the coming years.
Great. Any other thoughts on this question from anybody else?
I think most of you've seen a lot of big financial institutions open their branches and their launches into the metaverse in different protocols. I think there's still a lot to be run by those institutions in terms of what to explore really on the metaverse, what to offer, which financial services we will give to your clients on this digital or this virtual world, right? But ultimately, I agree that MPC can play an important role interacting with these different protocols because the interoperability it's key for this, right? You're going to have the central land or the sandbox, so you're going to have multiple worlds, and I believe MPC would allow you to give this interoperability to the different protocols. But how the institutions will therefore leverage this and offer services, that's still a question mark. But I think that they're going in good directions, and that's not only for institutions. You see a lot of corporates, right, opening their venues into the metaverse world and Web 3.0. So it's going to be quite interesting. But again, if you have a good MPC technology which interact with multiple protocols, that can be a key solution to support this new world.
Great. Okay, we only have 30 minutes for this panel, so I'd like to turn to one last question, and for each of you to give your views on this, which is really, what do you think the future holds for MPC? Will it become mainstream in 1 year or 10 years? Clarisse, do you want to kick off?
I think I started already answering this question. I'm a big believer in MPC. I think, and you mentioned Web3, so as we're building the foundation of the Web3 economy, we need to have custody solution that is also trustless. Now, nothing is really trustless. What is trustless? So if you don't trust a third party, you need actually to trust the technology. And I think this is the work we're trying to do at the MPC Foundation Alliance. It's to actually build the trust in MPC and try to find the way, whether it's for the education, standardization, to have people build technology that is safer, that people can trust, so we can actually build trustless solution to enable people to mass adopt Web3 and all the creators globally to start building in a Web3 model.
Great, fantastic. Marcus, from your point of view?
When I look at the whole digital asset space, I think what will be game changing will be the central bank digital currencies. And I think the MPC, being deployed into like every single mobile with one key share there, holding their digital dollars or digital reais or digital euros, that will bring a mass adoption in the future. And that will trigger the whole new world, in my view, in terms of other digital assets being tokenized and exchanged by the digital currencies, right? Not the fiat as we know today. And I think that will be, a game change. And I believe that MPC can play a very, very important role, right? So you could have a key share in every single mobile, and the other key share with the financial institutions or wallet providers, whatever it is. And in a very secure way, you could hold your digital money, right? And I think that's going to be the future, in my view, and will trigger, a lot of other, digital assets to be exchanged, hold, and so on.
Very interesting comments. And I do know that two central banks I'm aware of are asking themselves whether those CBDC implementations need to interface to DeFi, to your point. So it can be interesting, I think. Ankur, your views on this future-looking question?
Sure. I think MPC is here to stay. I think it is. It's a good technology for us to have. I'll go back to my previous comments. We get regulators on board. MPC can be used across the board for anything and everything. And that's all we need to do at this point of time. How soon regulators come on board? Well, your guess is as good as mine. But I think all of us need to work together in order to get regulations on board.
Great, thank you. Willem, from your perspective?
So I guess in Southeast Asia, the adoption is quite strong already for MPC. Most of the financial institutions, digital asset service providers are already very familiar using the solution for a few years, maybe, coming from the fact that some of those initiatives are more recent, perhaps, than they were in Europe or US. I guess they adopted immediately the more efficient technology. And when it comes to the future of MPC, I think a lot has been shared already regarding digital asset and transaction signing. To us at Atato, what is exciting about blockchains is, the ecosystem of dApps, and in particular, the composability of dApps. A common pain point today on blockchains is the lack of privacy. So I'm hopeful that as the research advances in MPC and other areas of privacy preserving computing, we'll be using MPC not just for signing transactions, which is excellent, but pretty basic in the grand scheme of things, but that we'll be using it in broader applications of secure computing. So I'm looking forward to advances in research in that area.
Great, fantastic. And finally, any closing comments from you, Aman, on this point?
Sure. So lately, zero trust has become quite a key theme in cybersecurity. But one thing that we don't realize is that the very foundation of MPC is zero trust, and it has been doing that even before anyone's even coined the term. So because what MPC allows you to do is it allows you to share data and share results without ever having to decrypt them. So two parties can participate in an operation. They can exchange data without ever looking at each other's data and just look at the outcome. And if you start thinking of MPC as in that manner, instead of looking at it as a specific solution for crypto or crypto assets, but you start looking at it as a cornerstone for being able to bring trust within such computations, within multiple counterparties, and being the technology layer that allows that to happen, I think there will be far wider adoption of MPC. And the key is many systems would use MPC, and we would be users of those technologies without ever even realizing that it is MPC that is running this behind the scenes. So perhaps it will still be out there in the shadows, but I do know for sure that it will be powering our community more than ever in the years to come.
And that's a fantastic way to close the panel, I think. So I'd like to thank you all for giving a fantastic discourse on MPC, why it's important, the institutional adoption, the barriers, and what the future looks like. So thank you all for your time. And thank you, Frank, for all your work behind the scenes. Thank you.
Thank you.